Are you there?
I am there, or here. You're there. I'm here.
Well, actually, I'll call you account for that. I'm actually here and you're over there. But now listen, I'm going to tell you where I am, right? I'm not only going to tell you where I am, I'm actually going to show you where I am because I've got some very, very high-tech shit playing out here today. So stand by, right? What we're going to do now is I'm going to show you Brisbane, and give me a second here while I set this up. And I'm going.
I have no. If someone showed me a blank map of Australia and told me to point out Brisbane, I would be in trouble.
Okay, well here's your map of Australia. Okay, there's Australia right there. Can you see that?
I do recognize that.
Okay, the big red bit in the middle is sort of largely desertic, and then over here, if we zoom in, we got Brisbane.
Oh, okay.
Okay, and as you move in, so all of this white stuff is the city. It's like about 3 million people, and you see it's crawling down the coast like a metastatizing cancer. This is the Gold Coast, beautiful beaches. This is what's that? That's North Stradbroke Island, Moreton Bay, and up here we've got the Sunshine Coast, all the way up here to Noosa. So it's a pretty amazing part of the world. It's called Southeast Queensland. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to zoom with this amazing tech all the way to Allegheny County, New York.
Allegheny County.
Allegheny County, New York, and that's where you are located, somewhere in amongst all that stuff. Huh?
There we go.
Pretty clever, huh? All right, let's done that. So Sam, like in 2 minutes, can you just tell me and for the audience who you are and what you do and why you do it?
Okay, well, my name is Sam Mitchell, and I'm the head chief and bottle washer, but not the only. It is a two-man operation at our YouTube channel called Collapse Chronicles, and I want to give credit to my buddy Jay in Brazil, who's the man behind the curtain, but I guess you would call me the head chief and cook and bottle washer here at Collapse Chronicles, which is a YouTube channel. We just celebrated our first anniversary, and as the name implies, we talk about the collapse of the ongoing, unfolding, and speeding up collapse of global industrial civilization and the planet, which we consider to be the single biggest story on planet Earth. And not many people are talking about it, so we are.
Yeah, okay, well that's great. So Collapse Chronicles is 1 year old today.
It was 1 year old on May the 3rd.
Okay, great.
We have 1 year and 16 days, and I am very proud of our baby channel. It is doing very well considering what we talk about. I'm very happy with it.
Yeah.
And I do appreciate you bringing me on here and promoting the channel.
Oh, absolutely. Well, let's actually do that promotion right now. So I'm going to share the screen again with my high-tech share screen button. And what we're going to do, and stand by, I need to just go and set that up. We're going to go there, and then we're going to go there.
I is much more high-tech than we are at Collapse Chronicles.
I give it a nudge, mate. I do what I can, mate. I do what I can. Okay, now here we go.
Way ahead. There we are.
Okay, so here is the Collapse Chronicles YouTube page. Now what I've got here is my name is
2,625 subs already in 1 year. 2,625 subs.
Yeah, subscribers. You've got nearly 500,000 views of your videos, and so if we go to the page that says videos, and here we are. So you're talking the last ones. You're talking about organic gardening. So tell me about your organic gardening, Sam.
Well, I'm here at Sandy Shellis from her fine channel, Environmental Coffee House, and she has me, I'm building an organic raised bed garden for Sandy so she can help survive in the collapse of what's coming. So
yeah,
that's what I've been doing all day, is building another organic garden. I have built organic gardens all over the United States and half of Latin America in my life. I don't know how many abandoned organic gardens have Sam Mitchell's stamp on them from here to Peru.
Yeah, right. Now, you spent some time in South Africa. Sorry, South America. You've talked about that a few times. What did you do when you were in South America apart from the gardens?
I have spent altogether 7 years in Latin America, and I moved down there in 2009. I moved to the Amazon, to the Peruvian Amazon, actually thinking that I honestly believed that global industrial civilization was an imminent collapse and would be gone in a few years. So I moved to the Peruvian Amazon jungle and bought land, built a little off-grid house, and 6 months later, global industrial civilization had not collapsed, and I was kind of missing my friends back in my own country, so I packed it up. Altogether, I've spent 7 years in Latin America.
Okay, and so when did you start getting this idea that there was a global problem? How long have you had that in your head? Where did that come from?
Well,
The trigger.
there's two ways of answering that, Guy. I understood when I was 12 years old that there was a serious problem. I actually have a book out there you can find on Amazon.com called Peruvian Plunge.
Okay, let's go and find it. Bye.
No, don't find that because the author's name is not Sam Mitchell. So, but it's called Peruvian Plunge, and it's by another author with a different name that some people may recognize. But anyway, we're already in trouble here, guy.
Careful.
But as I explained in that book, it was when I was 12 years old, Guy. I remember. And I've never been able to find this. I did not dream this. There was a copy of a Life magazine. I am almost sure it was from 1972.
Okay.
And the cover of the whole cover of Life magazine.
You want me to see if I can find it while you're talking?
Oh man, I would love you to find this. Right on the cover was the title. It was called "Taming the Green Hill."
Okay.
It was Life magazine. My guess is from around 1972, 1973. And what it was a full cover photo of the unbroken rainforest canopy of the Amazon rainforest, and ripped across it, my guess is in a diagonal, was this nasty looking blood red scar, which was this new road that they were building in the early 1970s to open up the Amazon rainforest. And the name of the article is Taming the Green Hill.
And that was Life magazine, right?
Yes, I have not seen this. I am getting ready to turn 60 years old. It has been 47, 48 years since the last time I saw this. Anyway, I'm not imagining this, but anyway, the article, was talking about how, Life magazine cheering on opening up the Green Hill, as they called it, of the Amazon rainforest to, with the bulldozers and all of this. And I remember as a 12-year-old child just getting this sick feeling in my stomach.
At 12?
At 12, it was like my first epiphany that things were wrong on this planet, and that the rest of the planet and I did not think alike.
Yeah.
While Life magazine, Life was celebrating the death of the Amazon rainforest in the 1970s. And it was probably my wake-up call that things were not going right there on this planet. And so for years, I thought that what I was going to be was an environmental journalist bringing the other side of the story.
Okay.
So I dedicated my life, and so I actually have a journalism degree.
Oh, okay. I see. Yep.
And so for 7 years, I was a journalist. I was a freelance writer and a newspaper reporter and news editor for several years, centering on environmental stories. This was in most of the 1980s. What I was a journalist with a specific interest in environmental reporting. And then I made this absolute ridiculous radical right turn, kind of in more ways than one, I guess, in 1988. And I got my real estate license. I went from being a radical left-wing progressive environmental reporter to working for Century 21 Real Estate in Santa Cruz, California. And since then I have real estate licenses in Oregon and Texas as well. So off and on over the next 20 years, I was a real estate agent and house flipper. What I did is I bought and sold houses, and I just got off track. And so for 20 years, I lost track of what was going on this planet.
Right.
And then in 2008, which I won't get too much into detail on this channel, I stumbled on the works of Terence McKenna.
Okay.
And Terence McKenna is the one who led me down this rabbit hole. And there I was, I had a successful real estate career. I had a beautiful home. I actually owned 5 houses. I had this beautiful home on the green belt, drove a nice car, lived the life of Riley. And in 2008, I made a radical left turn in my life. Okay. And just walked away from my $100,000 a year job and my comfortable life, living the American dream, just, going about my business, doing what people do. And throughout this whole time, I considered myself an environmentalist. On my work truck, not the one that I would take to the real estate office, I actually had a bumper sticker calling myself a dirt-worshipping tree hugger as I was racking up a $22,000 credit card bill at Home Depot. Right. And so anyway, Terence McKenna showed me the error of my ways. That was 11 years ago, and for the past 11 years, I have been spending more time living out of the back of my truck than anywhere else. And I spent 4 years down in Peru and Ecuador, came back in 2012, and for the past 7 years, I have been just kind of wandering around. I have kind of a home base in Austin, Texas, and I've just been wandering around the country, chronicling the collapse of this country and this planet. And the latest manifestation of my journey is Collapse Chronicles. And so that's what I do with my life, is I chronicle the collapse of global industrial civilization, the American empire, and most importantly, the planet, for the few people who want to hear it. And we'll see where it goes.
So that's a fascinating story, and your awakening. I'm a bit frustrated I can't find that cover.
Well, you're not going to be able to find it, brother. You are not going to be able to find this. I can tell you, I can see the photograph. I can see the title, Taming the Green Hill. It's written on white lettering against the background of the canopy of the forest. There's this red line of this dirt road and the Life magazine.
Yeah. Okay. So
I make this up. Did I dream this, brother? I don't know.
I will make you a bet, right? I will find that cover and send it to you, right?
I would love you to do that, brother, because when I wrote my book, obviously, when I wrote my book in the fall of 2009, that's when I wrote Peruvian Plunge, and obviously I went looking for this thing. And my brother-in-law, he's in the Life magazine money. I mean, family ties don't even get me. He couldn't. My sister could not find it. They said that I dreamed it.
Look, I think there's two things I want to just say out of what you've just been saying. Firstly, your awakening at 12 is amazing. That's very young. Most people don't have from that age. And also, that's what I refer to. You refer to it as an epiphany, and that's what I refer to as an ecophany, which is an ecological epiphany, as a distinction from an epiphany, which is like general. So I describe it as a spiritual, intellectual, or emotional awakening to the environment. And so you had your first one at 12. Secondly, what a profound thing that they should be celebrating the opening of this road in this magazine, in a magazine called Life. I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, if it was
in the early 1970s, I mean, the Amazon jungle was the last great wilderness that we had as a global industrial civilization to go in and destroy, and we've done a pretty good job of it. And now look who we have down there. Manning the bulldozers. You would think that since 1972, since I was a 12-year-old child, we might have learned something, Guy, in the Amazon rainforest. Obviously, we haven't, because we have gone 180-degree different wrong direction. And what has been unleashed on the Amazon jungle, it is the metaphor. This guy, Jair Bolsonaro, I call him Bozonaro, he is the poster child of the collapse of planet Earth. We have unleashed I try to keep my language clean over here on Collapse, and he makes it tough. He really does.
Yeah, no, he's pretty hard work, and I mean the traditional people over there are now concerned for their very their existence is now in threat. His position.
There's going to be an open bloodbath in the Amazon jungle. It's a bloodbath building. If you read, I'm always trying to turn people on to my favorite environmental organization called mangabay.com, and they report on this quite a bit. And a couple of weeks ago, they had their lead-off story. It's literally a bloodbath is forming down there, and these Amazon Indians, they have they have nothing to they have nothing to lose or everything to lose, and they're going to lose. But I'm glad to see them going down fighting. There's nothing that Bozonaro and those and those guys, that's Mangabay, want more than for an Amazon Indian to kill one of these one of Bozonaro's henchmen with a bow and arrow. They're praying for that moment, Guy. As soon as an Indian kills one of these, whatever form this invader may take, all hell's going to break loose down there. It's just going to be heartbreaking.
Now listen, I'm a bit envious of you because you got to interview on your channel, Collapse Chronicles. Hang on, I can't see it for some reason because there's bars in the way. Hang on, I'm going to have to unshare and go back standby. So you got to interview hang on, I've lost my train of thought.
I've interviewed you and I think 54 other people now.
Okay, okay, so the format of Collapse Chronicles is you do interviews with people, and plus you also just do pieces to camera where you read articles. Here's what I wanted to show you. So
the bedrock of my channel is every Sunday I have an interview, about an hour-long interview and I just pull from all areas of this subject. And so that's the bedrock of my channel or my Sunday interviews.
Okay, so you did a Sunday.
During the week, if I find an interesting essay or whatever talking about how this is playing out, whether it be in the mainstream media, usually in the alternative media, that I find interesting and want to share with folks. I will read that out, Monday to Friday, and then share my interviews on Sunday.
Okay, so you did an interview with Adam Frank a little while ago.
He was a lot of fun. Adam was a whole lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, so I've reached out to Adam a few times for an interview, but I haven't been able to get him. But one of the things that Adam Frank talked about, so I learned about his book, Light of the Stars, that I was looking at writing a book, which I wrote last year called What Comes Next. And what he was saying is that if you look at, if you update I always forget the name of this equation, but it's the equation that calculates how many civilizations.
The Drake equation.
The Drake equation. Thank you. Yeah. So if you update
I interviewed Frank Drake in 1983 when I was a newspaper reporter. I had the great pleasure. I was 24 years old, and I did not realize, what a monster interview I had scored at age 24. So as I was interviewing him, I did not realize how honored I should have been to be for this man to give some 24-year-old kid an hour of his time. I really wish I had that interview. He was. I'm sure Frank is no longer with us. Anyway. But get back to Adam Frank.
Anyway, so Adam Frank was saying that if you do the new sums, accounting for the new understanding of how many exoplanets there are, he says there are probably hundreds of trillions of civilizations in the universe. Trillions, and not just ours. And he says that using a model he's developed, that most of them, that they probably follow a very similar path of, if you've got a civilization, it suggests that you're exploiting energy resources. And those energy resources are probably coming from fossil fuels, which are probably consistent wherever there's organic, growth. And that most of the civilizations probably go extinct. But his modeling suggests that there are pathways for, he says, potentially a quarter of them to not go extinct. And that pathway requires what he calls a class 5 planet, which is where the civilization becomes partners with the natural biological systems on the planet. And so it's his work that helps for me to sort of frame looking forward about what comes next and the different scenarios, one of which is that we might be able to find some way out of this stuff. Now, I'm not saying we will, and I don't have a clear pathway for that to happen, but if we just use his work as a guide, that suggests it's not 100% certain that we're all going to drive ourselves to extinction. Sam, what do you think?
Okay, ask your question, then I'll...
Well, I was just going to follow that by saying what would be your prognosis of what's going to happen on this planet from all of your readings over the years?
Well, anybody who listens to that interview that I had with Adam, and he's a great guy. He really is. He's just up the road. I wish I had made that a person-to-person interview. But anyway, you will learn in that interview that by far the most common model was that we're heading to a collapse, to some form of major collapse. It is according to his models, more models point to some level of major collapse in the next few decades. And that is obviously the one I ascribe to. Now, I am not what he calls himself an astrobiologist. I love that term. I am not an astrobiologist. I am a journalist. Is what I am. So I feed from a lot of troughs, and and I get a little criticism from what I call the hardcore doomers, of which I am one, that I bring too much hopium into the interviews. I'm not the one bringing the hopium in. Yeah. But I want to offer a wide variety of voices, and I'm not just going to be interviewing other doomers who think just like me. What's the point of that guy?
Yeah.
So what I do like to do is interview people who understand the situation, the level of crisis that we are in now.
Yeah.
And because there seems to be a whole lot of agreement if you listen to my interviews. If you listen to all 50 of my interviews, including an interview with this fellow named Guy Lane, if you listen to the first half of the interview, we're completely in league with each other, that this civilization is going down the tubes. And then as the interview progresses, more and more of my guests, not all of them, there are a few of them who have stuck with me to the bitter end. Gail Zawacki certainly comes to mind, that we're not coming out of this, that it's clear. My personal take, and this is what I have been studying now, going on 10 years. I have put as much of my own journalistic research into this subject as I would have certainly into a 4-year college degree. Mm-hmm. Now I am reading mostly the popular press. I'm not digging way down into the jargon-filled scientific journals, but I am studying this from all angles. And Guy, that it's I think I titled the interview with you, "It's Not Looking Good, Guys." It's not. It's every single piece of evidence, as far as I'm concerned, virtually every single, let's call it 98% of the evidence, that the way I am reading the evidence, we're screwed. We are, the news is getting worse every single day. It's getting worse at a faster rate. This faster than previously thought meme that was going on. I called 2018 the year of faster than previously thought, and now year 2019, the headlines have changed from faster than previously thought. You see the word dire showing up in the word in headlines and leads to stories. And the UN reports, nearly every single UN report coming out now is described as dire. And this latest one, and kudos to the UN. I could go off talking about the UN for the next 2 hours, but as far as the science behind most of these UN reports, my only criticism, if anything, is that it's too conservative. But that the science is generally sound, especially if it is too conservative. This latest, what was it? 1,500, 1,800 pages?
Is that the 1.5C report that came out in December?
No, brother. I'm talking about the one that came out on May 6th.
The
absolute failure of the biodiversity protection.
Yeah, I'll find that one. That was I'll share that screen and talk to that report a bit more. And I'll go and find that.
Yeah, I spent several videos talking. It lasted in the mainstream media for about 1 day. On May 6th, it was all over the mainstream media. On May 7th, it was gone. It made the IPCC report from last fall look positively rosy compared to it. It was what that UN report was. It was an indictment against humanity, is what it was.
Yeah.
That on every single metric of the way we measure this, that this planet is going down the tubes. Every single ecosystem on this planet is collapsing in front of our very eyes. That's the IPBES.
Yeah, I've got this virus on the computer, so
yeah, they need a catchier a catchier phrase than that IPB. You get lost in the alphabet soup at the UN. And I'm sure that not one, do you think Donald Trump and Jair Bolsonaro spent 1 minute reading this? I've been trying to get an interview with the lead author of this, and he's just been too busy. Maybe I can get him to come on the show in 6 more months.
Okay, so here's the report. It's ipbes.net.
Yeah.
Science and Policy for People and Nature, Intergovernmental Science Policy Platform on Biodiversity and Ecosystem Services. And so basically, I think,
yeah, the executive summary takes about an hour to read.
Okay.
Just reading the executive summary without getting into the details of the blood and gore.
Yeah.
Just the executive summary. There it is. Summary to policymakers. Just reading that.
Okay.
You know.
Right. Okay. Yeah. So, and what it basically said was, in pretty much in all of the pledges and commitments made by governments to protect biodiversity, there'd been failure across the entire board, effectively.
Yeah, become complete failure. Then of course, when they, these mainstream media stories, they would give this bloodbath and just get out there with their bloodhounds and their electron microscopes and try to find some ridiculous success, one little tiny success story over the last 20 in the 21st, one example of where we have done something right. And it literally is bringing out the bloodhounds and the electron microscopes. Every one of these, it has been a complete failure. And then and then of course the solutions that where this quote solutions we are coming up to these challenges, they're a joke, Guy. They're a laughable, pathetic joke.
Yeah, no.
On every single level, they are a joke. These sustainable development goals. Just a very, Derek Jensen was, I remember reading one of his, back in the 1990s, Derek Jensen was saying in an interview, I can't remember whether it was him or the fellow he was interviewing, said, watch it. The oxymoron of the 21st century is going to be sustainable development.
Yeah.
The two words are a complete contradiction in terms. There is no such thing as sustainable development. If anyone says sustainable development, just laugh in their faces.
Yeah.
Now,
I'm going to go to one of the graphs here and just read out a couple of the headline numbers. So, examples of decline in nature: ecosystem extent and condition. Natural ecosystems have declined by 47% on average relative to their earliest estimated states. Species extinction: approximately 25% of species are already threatened with extinction in most animal and plant groups. Biotic integrity: the abundance of naturally present species has declined by 23% on average. The global biomass of wild animals,
look at that,
by 82%.
82%, brother. And look at the last one for our indigenous brothers and sisters.
Of indicators developed by indigenous people and local communities show ongoing deterioration of elements of nature important to them. Yep, that's pretty damning.
And you got to keep in mind, every bit of this research was done before the election of Jair Bolsonaro, and most of it was done before the election of Donald Trump. Yeah. And now here we have a little bit of some news from Australia yesterday. So not some shocking news. It's every turn.
What's your reading of the news from Australia? What have you heard over there?
Up here, well, of course, I read. I read the left end of the dial. And that's that we can expect this Adani coal mine to be fast tracked. Will be the first thing, and that any chance of Australia meeting any one, it's entirely joke carbon commitments anyway. You can completely forget about any of those. That it's going to be, I don't know, well, it's drill baby drill up here. It's going to be dig baby dig down there. That coal mining is just gonna go right back to business as usual. Any progress that Australia has made, and I think that and this news came out. It was, when was it? It was 2 or 3 days ago that koala bears have been declared functionally.
I haven't read the report. I've just skimmed past it, but it says that they've calculated that 80,000 remaining koalas means that they are functionally extinct. And that, I think functionally extinct means that there's still koalas, but the numbers of them doesn't have enough genetic diversity to allow them to overcome natural challenges or something.
Yeah, no, koalas are gone. You know, so you get the news out of Australia. Okay, koalas have been declared functionally extinct. 2 days later, we hear that the planet eaters have swept back into power, and there's, you know, Donald Trump calling this latest guy and congratulating him, and
so here he is here. So here he is here in the picture on the screen, Sam. So
which one is he? The guy standing up?
Yeah. Okay. And basically, what he's doing, he's handing a lump of coal to one of his parliamentary buddies. He brought this lump of coal into Parliament, held it up in the air, and said, "This is coal. Don't be afraid of it."
There you go.
Okay, and this guy's he's a born again Christian. He's like a mild Pentecostalist. I was reading what they believe in his church. So he believes that you need to get saved. You need to get the Holy Spirit come into you so that you can speak in tongues, and and he believes that Jesus is coming back.
Jesus better be coming back real soon, man. And boy, is he pissed.
Yeah, well, I think he's coming back for his foreskin.
Well, it's somebody better show up quick here, brother.
Yeah. So
I mean, I was sorry to hear that. I wasn't one bit surprised.
No, I was at a Greens
Modi over there in India. We got this guy over there in China with his Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. That's another one. This Belt and Road Initiative, the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative. If you want a conversation stopper at any party on the planet, just walk up to a group of people sitting around enjoying a pitcher of margaritas and say, "Hey guys, let's talk about the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative for a few minutes," and you will be a buzz killer at any party on the planet. Yeah. I mean, even in the doomosphere, I bet at least half of the people who are beyond environmentalists, who are doomers, could have no clue what the Chinese Belt and Road Initiative is and what it alone means for the planet.
So are you across what's going on in the Spratly Islands with the Chinese?
Down in the South China Sea, yes, I have been saying for years that if you want to see where World War III is going to erupt, it's going to be the South China Sea. Yeah. I am still sticking by those guns that World War III will erupt in the South China Sea. It is the misunderstood hot spot on the planet. People have no clue. I'm
going to share the screen again. So the Chinese have already started the Third World War against nature in the South China Sea. And what you're seeing here is they call it, there's a number of different island groups, the Spratly, for example. And what they've done, so you can see in this one here that I'm just highlighting, they've gone to a coral atoll, which is basically a coral reef environment in the South China Sea, and they've basically flattened it. to put a military installations on it. So here's one here. Look, and it's profound what they've done over there. I mean, apart from like sending the fishing boats in to strip mine the places, they've turned these natural environments into these military industrial complexes. It's absolutely profound. They've got like bomber runways, and here's one here. Look, undergoing its. You can't see very well. This one.
Oh yeah, man, it's but nobody understands. I see this is from January of 2016. That photo. Imagine that was over 3 years ago. They've had 3 more years to crank this stuff up. No, anybody. It doesn't matter where you turn anymore, guy. I mean, the evidence is being rammed down our throats at this point. We are not coming out of this. Any one of these apples could overturn the cart, as they say. There's so many things ready to explode on this planet right now. I mean, from you can go down any rabbit hole you want to.
Yeah.
And it's from anywhere from the North Pole to the South Pole to the Amazon jungle. Anywhere in between, you stop and look around. And
so, Sam, you're in real estate in the US in 2008. What did you see happening vis-a-vis the global financial crisis? Because that was very much that really dug into American real estate a lot, didn't it?
Interestingly, I was in Austin, Texas during that. Austin, Texas was the least affected real estate market in the entire country.
Right.
In the entire country, Austin, Texas, it has had war declared upon it. Austin, it is under full-scale attack. Prices leveled off a little bit, but it was the best place probably on the planet to be a real estate agent. I sold 4 of my own 5 houses in 2008, and so yeah, I mean, just houses that I personally owned. It did not affect my personal real estate career one bit.
Oh, okay.
People think that I got out of the real estate business because of it had nothing to do with it.
Right.
It was my epiphany in my work with Terence Mckenna, and it was purely a moral, ethical reevaluation of my life and what I was doing with it. It had nothing to do with the financial crisis.
Okay.
But as far as that, we are going to see another one. Obviously, brother, we are going to see another one, but I'm not one of these people who's going to act like I know when it's going to happen. I am not one of these people who puts dates on things.
Okay.
It is going to come.
Okay, now tell me again, who is, I'm just going to share the screen again for Terence Mckenna. So is it an American ethnobotanist? Is that who we're talking about here?
Mm-hmm.
Tell me about
Terence Mckenna. I don't know how much I want to get into anyone not who is not familiar with the works of Terence Mckenna needs to change that. He was one of Michael Rupert's. Michael Rupert credited Terence for being one of the leading people getting him down the rabbit hole. We all know what happened to Michael Rupert. And
Michael Rupert. So this was the guy behind Peak Oil, right?
Yeah, among other things, that's what he's most remembered for. But Michael Rupert was a major
It's 9 o'clock.
Aficionado of Terence Mckenna.
Right. Okay.
But Terence, he's a philosopher, is who he is. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of Terence on YouTube. He's only got a couple of books out. which are interesting, but he hadn't written that much. It's his YouTubes. There's many entire YouTube channels. Fortunately, the man, he died in 2000, but from like 1985 to 2000, he recorded every one of his lectures, which he called rap sessions, where he would just go in and the man could go for hours on end talking this stuff. I mean, going all over the board.
Okay.
I would recommend Culture Is Not Your Friend. I always say the first video to listen to from Terence is Culture Is Not Your Friend. You can find, you can find, you know, the entire speech. You can find little clips from inside it. He's hard to take. I mean, his voice is hard to take. But anyway, if you're not familiar with Terence McKenna, he completely changed my life.
Okay, let's listen to him for a couple of seconds. Stand by, just turn him on.
Practice of Aboriginal cultures all over the planet, that they dissolve ordinary realities, ordinary cultural values, through an interaction, a symbiosis, a relationship to local plants. That
Right. Okay. Just cut that off there. Just
yeah. So he.
Yeah. Okay.
He again, this is very dangerous territory. I am going into on this channel, because it will turn people off. But I guess I'm going to be honest. What Terence advises you to do is experiment with these plants, these plant-based spirit guides, specifically magic mushrooms, ayahuasca, the ingredient in there being DMT. Mushrooms and ayahuasca are his two big ones, and mescaline, peyote, or San Pedro cactus. San Pedro cactus is essentially, so what I did in 2008 is, for 3 months in a row, 1 month I did what he calls a heroic dose of magic mushrooms. The next month, during the full moon, I did ayahuasca for the first time. And the next month, I did San Pedro cactus. This is when I was in the middle of a successful real estate career for Keller Williams Real Estate. I was having these profound spiritual experiences. I'm not talking about going out in the woods and eating a couple of mushrooms with your friends. I'm talking about deep spiritual inner work on yourself. It's not a joke. And anybody who, they'll listen to this, you know, and a lot of my friends in Austin, oh, Sam, oh, he ate some bad mushrooms and he'll be back in 6 months. Well, it's been 11 years. I'm not back yet. It profoundly changed my life. You know, Graham Hancock is someone else who's had the courage to come forward. Joe Rogan has had the courage to come forward. Terence McKenna. That they are. Is it for everyone? No. Is it an avenue for people wanting to break their cultural, you know, all the stuff that Terence talks about, to get out of this culture and to free your mind and just for a brief few hours, you know, open up some avenues of exploration where you can communicate with some other power. And again, I don't want to get this conversation too deep in this, or people are just going to think that I'm some crazy hippie eating mushrooms and, you know, and I just don't have any time for that. But if anyone wants to email me personally at collapsechronicles@gmail.com and explore this with me further, I will be happy to do that. But I absolutely don't go there on this channel simply for obvious reasons, because even this channel, particularly, you know, with the people that I'm interviewing, if I turn this channel into that, I would not have Martin Rees, I would not have Helen Caldecott, you know, talking to me, because you start down these paths, and you will be ignored by if you step out of these carefully prescribed bounds. So what I'm doing on Collapse Chronicles, I push the envelope as far as I can without really stepping on the toes of, but I still have to play by the game, even here, Guy. There's
not on this channel, mate. You can talk about mushrooms all you like.
Yeah. Well, as I say,
and you're not the first person I've talked to who has suggested that magic mushrooms are a pathway to help people reevaluate their cultural perspectives on life. In fact, I was in a chat the other day with Alison Green, who's an academic in the UK, and we were talking about how do we get the powerful leaders to have their own versions of this environmental, epiphany, the ecophany, as I call it. And she recommended that we get them to eat some magic mushrooms.
Oh yeah, can you?
It's a well-recognized pathway to spiritual enlightenment, to opening up the mind to other ideas.
Donald Trump and Jair Bolsonaro, if you're listening to this interview, I personally am sending you, I will bring the mushrooms. And the three of us, we're going to sit down and each eat 5 grams of dried psilocybin mushrooms. And if Jair Bolsonaro would simply do that, the Amazon rainforest, all bulldozers would be pulled out of the Amazon rainforest tomorrow. The indigenous Amazonians would have a whole new lease on life if Jair Bolsonaro would simply eat 5 grams of dried psilocybin mushrooms. It would change the course of this planet. Certainly the Amazon rain, guaranteed.
So, call to anybody working in the White House, particularly in the catering department, just slip the mushrooms into the beef patty with Donald Trump's
Diet Coke. Shake them up and then split them all over the 2 quarter pounders with cheese and the large fries. Just sprinkle that powdered dried psilocybin at the next state dinner with the king of wherever. Anyway, all right, let's move on to another subject. I think I've gotten myself enough trouble.
Oh, Jesus. Okay. All right, I'm going to talk about your Patreon page, right? Because you do this work, but you're not getting properly paid, and that concerns me.
No, it's not a...
Well, I'm going to plug it anyway, right? So to anyone watching this, I want you to know that Sam here does his work, and he needs to pay his bills. He needs to put fuel in his gas-sucking truck. And one way to help that is you can go onto this page here, Collapse Chronicles. On the Patreon, you set up, you put your credit card in, make a monthly or weekly or whatever it is donation. And is that sharing the screen? Am I sharing the screen or am I talking?
But it's out there somewhere. A few people have found it. And then there's always good old PayPal at collapsechronicles@gmail.com.
Yeah, okay. So the reason why I'm bringing it up is because the work, because it's expensive to live and it's expensive to do the things that you do, and if you properly resource, you can do more of it, you can do it better, and you can reach more people, and the conversation can go out. It might be that it's too late. It might be that we've already basically triggered the extinction of the human race and most of the species on the planet. And if that's the case, well, it's still better to know about it than to not, right? And let me say something, Sam. Your service is unique. The videos that you put out, and I came across them probably about 18 months ago. And when I first saw them, I'm like, who the hell is this crazy guy? But of what you're talking about, it's just incredible. And it's a very, very small number of people are so consistently putting out this product that you need to be properly resourced. That's all I'm saying, right?
Well, I do appreciate you. And I really, anyone listening to this who has ever found it in their hearts and wallets to send me and Sancho Panza a few dollars, we do appreciate it.
Do you have your dog there, mate?
Of course, the Sancho Panza is never more than 3 feet from me. Sancho Panza has his own Patreon page.
Let's go and find that right now. Stand by. So tell us about Sancho Panza. What sort of animal is it, and how is it named?
You don't know who Sancho Panza is?
I'm new at these things.
I thought you were more well-read than this. Sancho Panza was Don Quixote's sidekick.
Right.
Don Quixote was the single greatest. And this is what Miguel Cervantes was the first doomer. He was talking about in the year. There he is.
Yeah.
So if you don't want to, you see what he's doing. He's creating joy and happiness. Sancho Panza is spreading joy, love, and happiness throughout the universe. That's his mission, is to be an antidote to the doomers. Sancho Panza is as far away as you can get from Sam Mitchell as Sancho Panza in Don Quixote.
Right.
So if my sidekick is Sancho Panza, you know who that makes me. And again, if anyone has not read Don Quixote, this was Miguel Cervantes, guy, in the year 1500, that Miguel Cervantes was spelling out to the human race. This was 250 years before the Industrial Revolution. Miguel Cervantes looked into the future, the way that humanity was going, and said, if we go down this path, we are going, essentially to destroy ourselves. It's what he was saying through this absolute masterpiece, Don Quixote. And of course, what he was perceived as, so he was spreading this message about the wrong turn that humanity had taken. The population of this planet was less than 1 billion people.
Right.
As I said, there was no fossil fuels on this planet. It was 250 years before 300 years before the first oil well. Miguel Cervantes knew damn well what was unfolding on this planet, getting out there trying to warn people about it. Mm. And he was perceived as the single biggest fool on the planet. Everybody he encountered, he got the same reaction when he was trying to spread this message, that he was just absolutely laughed at. Right. That he was the single biggest fool. Now, obviously, you understand that he was a genius, that the man was an absolute, this is Sancho Panza, the little guy. This, of course, Don Quixote with, he's tilting at windmills like I tilt at wind turbines.
What does that expression mean? Tilting at windmills. What does that mean exactly?
Well, it's like tilting I think it's a fencing term or whatever that thing is that he has.
A lance.
Yeah, the lance, or it was preparing to do battle with a windmill.
Sam, David. Sorry, mate. Sorry, I've just got something at the door. So just keep talking.
All right.
Back in a minute.
Yeah, I'll just keep talking about Don Quixote while you're gone. For anyone still listening, Don Quixote is the single greatest work of fiction in human history. And if anybody wants to understand what is unfolding on this planet in the 21st century, needs to read what was unfolding on this planet in the 16th century. And you will see that nothing has changed, and that Don Quixote completely understood in the year 1500 what was coming down the pike. And so in this picture, the little guy to the left is Sancho Panza. Sancho Panza was totally clueless about what was Sancho Panza was completely clueless about what was happening on the planet. So anyway, I've just been talking to anyone sitting around explaining that Don Quixote
We just said it.
You need to read Don Quixote and listen to Culture Is Not Your Friend. And again, if anybody wants to read Don Quixote, and you need to do this if you're a doomer, again, email me personally at collapsechronicles@gmail.com, and I will tell you how to do that, because it's a big undertaking. But anyway.
So he's so Don Quixote is like the original doomer, is what you're saying.
Yes, Don Quixote was the original doomer, and still doomers are being, as was happening in the year 1500, to this day, people bringing out this message. Me, you, and anyone else down here in this rabbit hole, we are a laughing stock of 99% of this planet, that we talk this stuff just like Don Quixote talking to the goatherds. My favorite scene in the whole thing is when he's talking to this group of goat herders, having no clue what he's talking about. And this is still the reaction that we are getting. We are the most despised group of people on the planet. Nobody wants to hear what we have to say. And that's why we're down here talking to ourselves. And, you know, I can say talking to my little imaginary friends on YouTube is how I describe it. We do what we can, Guy. Why we do it? We tilt at windmills.
Yes. All right. Right. Sam, I'm going to draw this conversation to a close now, mate. And it's been a real pleasure chatting with you.
It's been fun.
Huh? Yeah.
It's been a lot of fun, brother. We'll have to do this again.
Yeah, and look, and I've really enjoyed you sharing the sources of your wisdom and your knowledge, and then we've been able to actually drill down using this really awesome technology and sharing things. And so what we can do is maybe set up another one of these conversations a little down the track, and prepare it with all the resources, so I don't have to search for them on the fly. Because I think this is a really, really informative way of sharing these ideas. And what I'm really,
I want you to look up that. I want you to look up that. Find that Life magazine story on taming the green hell, and we'll do a little 5-minute postscript addendum to this video when you find that thing.
Okay. Yeah, we'll do that. And yeah, and look, also, I'm trying to find ways to take this conversation that you and I are having, and actually get it out to a much wider audience, because there's really no point in us just talking to each other and a very small group of people. It needs to be a widespread conversation. If there's any chance whatsoever of turning the ship around, then not a lot of people need to know about it, even if it's too late. At least they'll know what's coming down the pipeline.
I'm talking to the radiated cockroaches and the space aliens who are going to find the rubble and figure out what went wrong here, just so they know a few of us understood what was happening before our civilization crashed and burned. And what did Adam Frank say, and landed itself in the dustbin of cosmic history, because that is exactly where we are heading.
That's where we're going. That's indeed. Sam, thanks very much, mate. And I look forward to the next time we have a conversation.
All I have to say is get out there and enjoy global industrial civilization while you still can, and keep up the good work, Guy Lane. We do appreciate what you're doing for the cause, brother.
Okay, good work, mate.